Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I think we'll give just a minute, but I'll go ahead and get started with introductions as people are still joining. Welcome to the UAB Department of Pathology's Tweet and Eat series. This final session in our three-part summer series is focusing on the science. The series focuses on the science of communications, and this one features two giants in the pathology social media sphere who will speak with us about their tips and tricks for navigating social media as clinical professionals. And we are so excited to welcome Dr. Sarah Zhang and Adam Booth to join us today. So welcome to both of you, and thank you for being here. I'm going to read a little bio for each one of them. Dr. Zhang is Associate Professor of Pathology at Duke University and Chief of the Head and Neck Service, as well as Director of the Duke Pathology Communications Group, which maybe she can tell us a little bit more about. Her areas of research and expertise are cytopathology and surgical pathology of the head and neck and endocrine systems, with particular interest in thyroid nodules, ultrasound-guided FNA, and novel applications of social media for medical professionals, which is what we're all here for. She's active in committees and leadership within national pathology and medical organizations, including SCAP, ATA, CAP, ASCP, and ASC, and has been honored with local and national awards, including the ASCP 2017 40 Under 40 Top 5, as well as Duke Pathology's PIZO Faculty Research Mentor Award and the Pathologist Magazine's Power List, and the 2019 CAP Resident Advocate Award. And I think we'll let her go ahead and start, and then I'll introduce Adam as well before he gets started on his portion of the talk. So welcome and thank you.
Great, thank you. Is the correct presentation showing over here? You guys can see it?
I can see it.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much to all of you for being here. Thank you so much to the department for the invitation and for your time today. This is hopefully going to be applicable to folks from all walks of life, not just pathologists, but people in other specialties, trainees, faculty, staff, anyone who is involved with science has the potential to gain a lot through being involved with social media. And so just a brief overview, I'm going to talk about why to use social media and then some ways to use social media. And I'm going to give examples from my experience, but really the world is your oyster. Once you learn how to use it, you can make it your own and figure out ways to make it work best for you, and probably think of things that I would never even be able to imagine. So it's always exciting seeing what everyone else is up to as well. So first off, if we were in a room, I'd ask you guys to raise your hands, but just, think about who in the audience has tons and tons of free time, like this lady here, where you're just like, oh, I have so much free time. What am I going to do with all this amazing free time? Like everyone's nodding their head, right? Lots of free time, don't have much going on. Yes, yes, no, okay. But yes, so no, right? We're all busy, especially for in academics. We're taking care of patients, we're writing papers, we're doing research, we're teaching or learning as the case may be. And as I do, and I have administrative roles, I have things I do at home as well. Sometimes I like to see my spouse and children, and I love eating, and occasionally, just occasionally, I like to sleep as well. So why am I going to spend time doing something else and adding something else to my life, like social media, right? It's not because I have so much free time. It's because actually by using social media, I can use my limited time more effectively to achieve my goals. And so what are some of the benefits of social media, right? There's so many. And the number one thing that I think is important is that networking piece, right? It's about what you know, but also who you know. And so social media is an amazing way to meet and engage with colleagues from around the world, from your specialty, people who are in your areas of expertise, people outside your areas of expertise, and especially with the pandemic limiting our in real life opportunities, the networking piece of social media has really been a lifesaver for me this past year plus, because it's allowed me to keep doing the things that I love doing, to keep innovating, to keep working together and building that community and moving the field forward, even though we can't be together in person. So I definitely think that during the pandemic, social media has taken on an even more important role as a way for us to connect. It's a great way to stay informed as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Um, Number three is, of course, the IRL, or in real life opportunities. And, we're starting to see maybe some more in real life opportunities coming back. But, social media isn't an end in and of itself. It allows you to do the things you want to do, in your more traditional academic roles, in your real life. And so there is benefits that extend beyond the smartphone screen as well. Some of the things that I like, I already talked about this. It is super quick, right? Most of us have a little smartphone, or pocket brain, as I like to call it, in your pocket. It's always with you. And you can use these like little downtimes of spare moments. So, you're waiting for the elevator, you're waiting in line at Costco, you're waiting to pump gas, things like that. Those little moments of downtime, you can pick up your phone, check Twitter, check Instagram, see what's going on, and then go back to your life. So it really lets you harness those little kind of downtime moments when, I guess you could crush candy, or you could like crush your career goals. So another benefit is that it has an amazing multiplier effect. So social media has the ability to impact, really literally thousands of people across the world. And it has that advantage over some of the more traditional methods of disseminating information. And then, number six, as much as some of us would like to maybe hide our stick our heads in the sand, it's what, 2021, and you as an individual and a scientist have an online reputation and presence, and you can ignore it and let other people say what they're going to say about you, or you with social media can engage and control your online reputation and presence. And I think that's really important, especially for those of us who are in academics who are trying to establish that reputation nationally, worldwide. Social media is a great way to help do that. So let me give you some examples of ways that you can use social media for the different things that we do in academics. So pathology, right? We teach using slides. And so the old way or traditional way of teaching, which I still do, is, hey, I get a really great case of a gist. Stains are perfect. Morphology is perfect. I've read the textbook. I love those cases, right? Everyone loves those cases. And if you're on with a resident, you say, oh, this is such a classic case. Why don't you take this case, put it down in the residence room and show it around, because it's just such a great teaching case. And, we have maybe 24 plus residents, maybe half of them are in the resident room at any given time. Maybe half of them have the time to look at it. So by teaching this method, you can reach maybe half a dozen people if you're lucky. And that's great, right? That's what we do in academics. We teach people on, kind of an individual or small group level, and that's great. But you can do different things and expand on that with social media. So this is an example of a tweet that I made. It is not rocket science. This is not groundbreaking news. No one is giving me the Nobel Prize for this. This is super, super basic. This is just kind of a cytopathology 101. I do a lot of thyroid ultrasound guided biopsies in my other life when I'm not on Twitter. And a really kind of basic pitfall that you can have when you're doing immediates to see, hey, did I get enough material, is that skeletal muscle can look like thick colloid on immediate assessment. And this is just a comparison of, the one and the other. Again, not rocket science, not particularly earth shattering, and took me, maybe a few minutes to take a picture with the scope, do the editing on my camera, type things into Twitter. Maybe took 5 minutes to put this tweet together, right? Not a ton of time. And this is the impact that this tweet had. So for those of you who are not Twitter analytics nerds like myself, this number is impressions. And that's basically times someone saw this tweet on Twitter. And this is, an old screenshot. Probably more people have seen it since then. But 12,000 people saw it. Does that mean all those people were pathologists? Probably not. Does it mean all those people were like, wow, this is really going to improve my F&A practice? Probably not. But it's amazing the power that you can have in your smartphone. This tweet that took me 5 minutes to put together reached 12,000 pairs of eyeballs. That's amazing, right? And you can think of this, if you had something maybe more earth shattering to share, it's this amazing force multiplier, and you can put it to work for whatever information you want to share, discussion you want to encourage. So it's just incredibly, incredibly powerful, and it doesn't take that much time. Kind of going back to other things you might want to do is stay informed, right? So how many of you, subscribe to a print newspaper? Maybe a handful of you. And I think it's very important to support journalism, but, I don't get the newspaper anymore because I just don't have time to sit and physically, sort through it. And then, how many of you are reading all your publications and journals cover to cover the minute they arrive at your desk? I'm not going to ask anyone to raise their hand, but this is a picture of my actual desk with my beloved microscope with this pile of journals that I took a while ago. You can see that there's still like some plastic on some of them. So, I'm not reading this stuff when it hits my desk because I'm so busy and it's kind of overwhelming, right? And then in terms of other things, how many of you sit and watch the evening news, right? For a long time, I didn't have a TV, so that was not how I was getting my news. And it's overwhelming to try to keep up with everything that way. But through social media, you can streamline your news feed to what you're interested in. So for instance, here we have cancer cytopathology. I'm a cytopathologist. The tweets give you, the latest articles. You can kind of pick and choose what journals you want to get. You can get, for instance, I'm interested in legislative issues at my state level. You can get summaries from, your medical society, and then even just in your personal life, following the traffic reports. If you're walking out and you see, oh, hey, there's an accident on the Beltline, maybe you go somewhere else. And, just think of anything you might be interested in. You can tailor that newsfeed to be things that are interesting to you. Back in the day when I ate out, I followed my favorite food trucks locally so I could see where they were. It really does make it easier to keep up with the things that are important to you. And, kind of a point here, getting these journal articles, does this mean I am going to try to read all these journal articles on my smartphone? Probably not, but at least I will say, okay, I remember, so-and-so published this article. Let me go back and read it. Hey, I remember, a couple months, down the line, oh, someone posted an interesting article that they did about something. It's at least on my consciousness and I know that it's there versus, kind of having to sit there and flip through the paper journal, which, I do love paper. I do love paper books, but this is just so much more efficient. And then I talked about networking, right? So these pictures make me feel so much nostalgia, and I really do miss in-person meetings. And hopefully we will be going back to those soon with the CAP and ASC and USCAP meetings. I'm really looking forward to hopefully being able to meet again and network in person again over cocktails with friends in person. But certainly during the pandemic, we are not doing networking this way, right? And so what do? Do you just stop networking, stop doing research, stop all these things? No, you can put social media to work for you, right? And so, when I think about my social media profile, that's really my business card, right? My little Twitter profile there has my picture and has a little smattering of hashtags telling people what I'm interested in. And they can go click on my scholars.duke.edu site to find out more about me. This is your electronic business card and it's there 24/7. And unlike traditional business cards, if you switch roles, if you get new roles, you don't then end up with 1900 business cards that you have to shred and get remade, right? And then there's also ways to meet new people, right? So for instance, on Facebook, there's groups of people with shared interests. This one is a cytopathology group. There's probably more members now. And that is a way to network and meet people that you otherwise might never come in contact with. And this networking doesn't just happen once or twice or 3 times a year. And if you have to cover service instead of going to the meeting, you don't miss out on that networking. This is the network that really, is there all the time. And you can make these strong connections because you're seeing people interacting with people on a regular basis rather than just seeing them once or twice a year. And so, and again, during the pandemic, this has been absolutely critical. Another thing, right? So in academics, we write papers and it's not the easiest thing in the world. You do your project, you get the IRB, you collect the data, you look at the data, you analyze it, you talk to your collaborators, you write your manuscript, you go through revisions before you submit it, and then you submit it, and then it gets rejected, and you submit to another journal, and you have to revise it, and reviewer 2 makes you feel sad about your whole core being, and then years later, you get this manuscript in publication and it's a wonderful feeling and you have put so much work into it. Your trainees have put work into it. Your collaborators have put work into it. And then it just it stops. You stick it up on the wall And, maybe if you're at the water cooler with your colleague, if water coolers are still allowable at your institution, you say, hey, did you see my cool new article? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. Right. But you've put all this work into the paper and you have no idea if people are reading it unless you get a nasty, letter that you have to respond to, which, that's great. But, you don't really have the sense that what you've put into the world has had much of an impact at all necessarily. But with social media, you can tell that it's having an impact. And this is just an example from our department. This was a post where one of our colleagues, Dr. Cardona, from a while ago, posted about Medicare's new quality payment program. Again, this is a little bit old, so it's no longer a new quality payment program. But just in one day, you see, I posted 23 hours. It's a screenshot from a long time ago. Over 500 people were reached just in less than one day. And this is great to see that people are actually seeing it, but then people can also interact with it. They can ask you questions. You can see that people are sharing it. It gives your publications continued life and it gives you feedback on your publications, right? Just another example here. This is a project that I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, but it was a project that we did basically on social media. I posted this and 38,000 impressions, right? Again, not all of those people were like, wow, I'm really interested in endobronchial ultrasound, but just the amount of interactivity that you can have. You can see that 223 people clicked on this link. So people are reading your paper. They liked it. 36 people thought it was important enough to retweet. And that again is, for those of us who are interested in analytics and data, it's really cool to look at and see. And certainly if you're a publisher of a journal, these page clicks are gold, right? Publishers care if people are reading and downloading their papers. And so social media is this really, really wonderful tool to ensure that all your hard work doing these research projects, it's making it to eyes who are aware of it. It's potentially sharing it with people and certainly potentially maybe helping patients, right? If you're sharing new findings that may be germane to patient care, this is an absolutely critical tool to get those findings out there. And like I said, you look at the impressions, you're like, oh, that's so nice. People are reading my paper, right? You feel kind of good about yourself. But so I've shown you some analytics and numbers of likes and tweets and stuff. And, that's all well and good, right? But is it just about amassing likes? Is it just about making me feel like a popular pathologist, like getting these pats on the back? Yes, absolutely. But, in all seriousness, there's more to it than just collecting the likes, right? Like I said, it's about using social media to help achieve your goals. And especially in academics, there's all kinds of applications. And so I'll talk a little bit about some of the applications that I've had the chance to work with. And so for academics, some of the really powerful elements of social media that are an improvement on traditional media are really, again, connecting with peers with similar interests. It is absolutely amazing the way that you can connect with people via social media that you may have never met before. Other things that are super helpful and just convenient for those in academics, sourcing rare pictures or findings. You've seen the power of social media to share information, right? And so using that exponential multiplier is great for if you're looking for a rare disease, if you're looking for rare images. So I've used social media to find photo mics for some rare findings for textbooks. I've reached out to people, obviously, to ask their permission and credited them appropriately. But if you're writing a book and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot find a picture of a tart cell, put it out on social media. People might, be very willing to contribute. And I've actually found that people are very willing to step in and say, hey, I've got this great picture of this. I've got this great picture of this. Can I use it for your, my textbook? And they're like, oh, sure, credit me. And it's been this great experience versus trying to dig through, dozens of years of cytology archive slides myself, right? And then you can actually use social media to conduct research. You can use it to do research on social media. You can do it to do research on other topics. And so just a few stories of things that I've worked on in these three arenas. The first is Journal Club. So Journal Club is this time-honored, established tradition in medicine, right? We pick a paper and we discuss it as a small group. And why not do it on the internet and open it up to the whole world and invite the authors? And so that's what we did with PathJC. It's been a while since we've done one, I have to admit, But, what we did was basically, we would pick a paper. We would actually ask the publishers to make it open access if it wasn't open access. And generally, publishers were very enthusiastic, again, because it's a great way to get their paper out to the world. We'd often invite the authors to participate, to kind of share their thoughts. And, it took on this element of sharing practice patterns as well, which is different than a traditional journal club, which is, hey, this new guideline paper came out or this new nomenclature paper came out. How are you using this in your different institutions? And that was something that I found very helpful to talk to people across the country. Hey, what are you doing? How are you, solving these problems? How are you integrating this in your practice? And I know that for folks, both in academics and private practice, this has been a useful tool for them when we've talked about practice patterns and everything from, thyroid nomenclature to molecular testing in pancreases. And depending on what specialty you're from, there's tons of other journal clubs. So Nephrology Journal Club is kind of the OG. We took a lot of inspiration from them. One of the founders of that is Matt Sparks, who's here at Duke with me. And so they've been going on for a long time. But you can see journal clubs in cardiology and GI and allergy and internal medicine or immunology medicine, many, many more. If you go to Simpler, there's tweet chats on there. And if you are interested in, whatever specialty, just Google it. Chances are there's probably a journal club. And then even within pathology, there's DermPath Journal Club, Cyto Journal Club, Heme Path Journal Club. So all kinds of journal clubs are out there. And again, it's a great opportunity to kind of replicate that sense of the old fashioned journal club, but open it up to the whole world. And again, have that kind of sharing practice patterns. Organizations are on social media as well. And especially for those of you who are maybe more junior, it's a great opportunity to get involved and provide a valuable service to organizations. For instance, here we have the Duke Path Department. This is the Instagram account, which fortunately our amazing residents have really taken over and run with. But you can help with journals, you can help with departments. It is great CV building. And again, it's a great way to network and, really meet these super famous pathologists or other people in your field and get to work with them. And it's really been a privilege. And for myself, I've had the honor of being able to work with, just about every journal in the field: Modern Pathology, the Journal of the ASC, Cancer Cytopathology, Archives, Diagnostic Cytopathology. And this has been something that is super fun because you get to learn how, being on the editorial board of a journal works. You get to help contribute, you help get peer-reviewed papers, you get to help shape their social media campaigns. It's something that's really, really super fun. And like I said, it's a great CV builder, especially if you're earlier on in your career. So these are some ways that, again, kind of there's direct links between what you do on social media and then a line item on your CV for academics, right? And that's great. Let's think outside the box a little bit, right? Are there other things that we can do specifically using social media that, are maybe a little bit different? So this is kind of a fun example. This is a tweet of mine from April of 2015, which seems like just yesterday, but is actually kind of a long time ago. And this was a hashtag, kind of silly hashtag that I used for the first time here, which was hashtag FNA Friday. And I got this idea because I had done a science communication course at Duke, and some marine biologists had come and given a talk, and they were talking about some hashtags they used, which were, I think it was hashtag Mollusk Monday. And so marine biologists on Mondays would feature some kind of tweet featuring a mollusk. And I was like, that is adorable and cute and nerdy and funny. What can I do for cytology or pathology that would be similar? And so I came with, FNA Friday. I love FNAs. I love cytology. And I just thought this would be a fun thing. And, hashtag FNA Friday. We'll post fun or interesting and educational FNA cases on Friday. And I was like, at this time, this was just me. I was like, well, maybe it's just going to be me, this crazy cytopathologist posting these. But lo and behold, the cytopathology community really started adopting this FNA Friday hashtag. We have Valerie Fitzhugh, who's a interim chair at Rutgers, saying FNA Friday, Marcos Lepe, Eduardo Alcaraz, who's over in Spain, Daniel Skipper. So all these people started using this, like, kind of, in my mind, like just a silly, fun hashtag to try to get people excited about cytopathology. And it kind of took on a life of its own, so much so that actually Eduardo and Jordi Temprano, both of whom are Spanish cytopathologists, created an abstract looking at the use of this FNA Friday hashtag for a meeting. And I mean, just look at all the people who have tweeted about this hashtag. There were almost 350 original tweets that they saw with likes, retweets, and comments. And again, this was something that I thought was just kind of a fun, silly hashtag that I could make to share my enthusiasm and excitement with pathology. And it really became something that was adopted by the cytopathology community. And hey, I got an abstract out of it, right? So super cool to see that community building that I was hoping for actually come to fruition. So more stories. So I talked a little bit about Eduardo. So Eduardo is a cytopathologist in Spain. He has interests in simulation and FNA training and medical education. And we met through Twitter. And I think we met maybe once at a USCAP meeting in person, and we just kind of connected on a number of projects. And after meeting just once in real life, he invited me to help him on this paper about simulators and standardized assessment tools. I was like, this is awesome. I would have never met Eduardo, who's super enthusiastic, has so many amazing ideas, loves the same things I do, FNA, teaching, cytology. I would have never met him if it weren't for social media. And hey, we're writing a paper together. Oh, but wait, it gets better, right? So, we were talking about different projects, and he was saying that he was involved with the planning of this Society for Spanish Pathologists, SCAP, meeting in Granada. And he was like, what do you think? Do you want to do a workshop with me or come teach a course? And I was like, oh, would I like to go to Granada, Spain, a country I love, and teach a course on something I love with an awesome colleague from Spain? Yes, please. And so I ended up, this was in 2019, giving not one, not two, but 4 sessions at the SCAP IAP meeting. And it was in things like, social media here. We did a workshop on fine needle aspiration with some medical students. I talked about my more traditional niche of thyroid molecular testing. I mean, it was certainly CV gold. I got 4 international invited talks out of this friendship with Eduardo. And oh, by the way, it was also super, super fun. So I got to go meet all these amazing Spanish cytopathologists. There's me there, got to go to a meeting. They're such a great group. And I got to, have dinner with a beautiful view of the Alhambra. Like, it was amazing. It was this amazing trip. And it all came out of this friendship that I started because I was on social media, and it's been incredibly rewarding to still continue those friendships because it's not just professional elements. We went to go see flamenco together. It was really building these international friendships. And I think that in medicine, sometimes it's a little bit, challenging, especially in a pandemic, to feel like you're working so hard all the time, you're making sacrifices in terms of time with your family or sleep, and to feel like you're really part of this community of people who all care, who, are friends of yours, who are all working together. That's a really, really powerful feeling. Again, especially when we're doing things virtually. And when we talk about, things like burnout or resilience, I actually feel like even though I do a ton of different things, having this community of people that I'm networked with, that actually helps me avoid burnout because it makes me feel like, we're in it together. We have this sense of community and friendship. And sorry, that's a little bit of a digression, but it's definitely something that I felt very, very strongly this past year during the pandemic. So shifting gears to research collaborations, I feel like I'm featuring the Spanish cytopathologists a lot. It is because they are awesome. And so this is a story of, a tweet. So Laura Pijuan, who's a Spanish cytopathologist, tweeted something about how endobronchial ultrasound guided needle biopsy can push cartilage into lymph nodes, as can be kind of seen here. And so Sanjay Mukhopadhyay, who's an awesome lung pathologist and another Twitter superstar, said, hey, I learned this on Twitter from Laura that EBUS TBNA can push cartilage into lymph nodes. Has anyone else ever seen this? And then, a little while later, you can see about 3 days later, Jennifer Souter, who's a cytopathologist and thoracic expert at MSK, tweeted, hey, we're going to have an international multi-institutional Twitter EBUS study looking basically at this phenomenon of EVIS TBNA pushing cartilage into lymph nodes. And it was open to anyone. We basically established it. Marcos Lepe organized the study documents. There was an IRB template so that people could use that for their individual IRBs. And again, right from idea to like inception of the study, 3 days. And then it ended up with 24 pathologists from 14 institutions in 6 countries, a total of almost 300 cases. And it resulted in a paper. And I really want to point this out. So this is, the author list, and, we put together cases. There was central review. There was 1 year from the initial tweet to the paper acceptance for a multi-site international study. And most of the authors had not really met in real life. And so this is amazing, right? I don't know if any of you guys have ever worked on an old multi-institutional study done using traditional means. 1 year is probably not even enough to get the IRB documents finished. And am I saying, okay, this finding, again, it's interesting. It's not obviously a multi-center, oncology therapeutics trial. It's somewhat different, but certainly as proof of principle, this shows that social media can get people together, get cases together, and get it done and get a publication in this amazing rapid fashion. And so in kind of an inception type of thing, Marcos and I actually wrote up the process of how the EVIS Twitter study was conducted. So if you're interested in kind of replicating this or looking behind the curtain, this paper is in archives and you can see kind of how we did it. So that's all well and good. And actually all of this stuff happened before the pandemic, but then the pandemic happened, right? And everything went virtual. Just really quickly, I'm going to run through some of the things that we've done in the past year with social media, with the help of social media to keep things going. And so the pandemic was horrible for academics, right? All your meetings were virtual. You still had them, but then you had them all the time. All your lectures were canceled. So, for us, younger academics, those invited lectures are super important for building CV. Electives are canceled. So you can't tell all the medical students and visiting observers how amazing pathology is, which again is something that I find very important. And then networking ground to a halt, right? But so what can we do? Again, does our life just as an academic stop? No, of course not. That's not what I'm here to talk about, right? So one of the things we started using social media for was virtual grand rounds. So many speaking opportunities were canceled. And again, we were thinking, hey, for these younger academics, this is a big loss. What can we do to help step into the gap? And so Sarah Wobker from UNC and Kamran Mirza and Raul Gonzalez and myself and Elham Kanafshar from UCSF got together and created these virtual grand rounds. We publicized them through social media. We maxed out the registration of 300 for many of the lectures, and we created an opportunity to have people still be able to share their lectures, still have that CV building for younger faculty. And this was extremely well received by organizations too, because at my organization, I know our grand rounds just stopped for a while. And so the folks who organized grand rounds here were thrilled when I was like, hey, I have an idea. Let me bring you in some grand round speakers and step in. So it was appreciated on the part of the organizations too. And of course, we wrote it up in a paper. So again, always goes back to like that traditional CV building. It's money for that too. Path Elective is another effort from Kamran Mirza and Cullen Lilly out of Loyola. Adam and I think are both co-founders of that as well. And this is because pathology electives were canceled. And in pathology, one of the things that we care about deeply is the pipeline, right? We know in pathology that pathology is the best specialty. I mean, if there's anyone from other specialties watching, sorry, you guys are just wrong. But not medical students don't necessarily have that ability to see that all the time. If you don't have electives, you don't have that learning, you're missing out on the potential pipeline. And so really with the leadership of Kamran and Cullen, they created a pathology elective. It is totally online. There's modules from faculty members across the country in all different anatomic and clinical specialties. And it's coming up on a year. And it has, I can't remember the numbers, but thousands and thousands of people have registered from across the world to use this and have learned from it and have been getting certificates. And this is another effort that wouldn't have been possible without social media. And it's really had an impact. And if you were interested in reading about the impact, you can see this paper that Cullen first authored. And then just, one more thing, this is my pet project during the pandemic, and that's PathPod. So this was an offshoot of the Path elective where I think I listened to a lot of NPR quiz show podcasts, and I threw out this idea of, wouldn't it be fun if we had a podcast that was kind of like NPR's Ask Me Another or Wait, Don't Tell Me, but it was pathology puns and pathology, topics. And that is that was my initial idea. Fortunately, my colleagues at PathPod, Christina Arnold, Mike Arnold, Kaman Mirza, Adam Booth has contributed to PathPod. They thought, hey, this is a great idea, and expanded upon it. And so over, it's been, a bit over a year. We've had over, I think, 60 episodes at this point, almost 50,000 downloads. We've had not only my bad pathology pun quiz show, which is what I super, super love, but we've had interviews with people. You can see there, I got the chance to interview Rebecca Johnson, who leads the ABP. We've had topic related around the scope sessions on topics like forensic pathology, pediatric pathology, cytopathology. We've had stories, sharing stories of our listeners about their families and about their paths to pathology. It has been an amazing way for me to connect with people, and hopefully for us in pathology to keep sharing our messages and advice and stories, even if you can't have that in-person interaction with students and colleagues. And this has been something that, I do put my PathPod episodes on the CV, but really this has been something that's been so rewarding. And it makes me feel, again, like what we do matters, that we are part of a community, and there's still things we can do together to share our enthusiasm for science and move the field together, despite the limitations of the pandemic. And I do have to leave Adam some time. I apologize. So some take homes from me. Obviously, social media offers so much: education, networking, research. If you're in academics, it's ticking off all the boxes. If you're not on it, you are definitely missing out. And the best way to learn really is to just get started. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but you go on there, you listen for a little bit, and then, I've told you the ways I use it. You don't have to listen to me, right? Like, these are the things I've done, but make it yours. You're going to figure out some way to use it that I would never think of, and it's going to revolutionize the field. So with that, I'll give you my handles there, and I will turn it over to Dr. Booth.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me do a quick introduction of Dr. Booth before he gets started. He is an assistant professor, recently joined the faculty of the Department of Pathology at the Northwestern Feinberg School of Medicine in Chicago. He completed his anatomic and clinical pathology residency at the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston, followed by a subspecialty fellowship in gastrointestinal, liver, and pancreatobiliary pathology at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Harvard Medical School in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome, Dr. Booth, and thank you for joining us. You are muted. There you go.
Sure, I'm unmuted, right? You think it'd be like second nature now, right? So, well, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here, and it's a tough act to follow, Dr. Jang, but I think I'm trying to expand a little bit on some of the things that she pointed out, and kind of give you my perspective as going through and using social media when I was a trainee, and then now as a brand new faculty. So just a few quick objectives. So just recognize the value in training, kind of develop a strategy to achieve your goals, and then some of the benefits of social media use in traditional training. First thing I'd point out is, have a plan. So what are you trying to achieve with your social media goals? What are you looking for? Is it to be super famous? Is it to get your papers, more seen and more read and more cited? Is it just to connect with other colleagues? Is it to do all these things? But what are you kind of after? You kind of have a plan in mind. So, and that goes with your goals there. And then, maybe you want to contribute to your, what you want to do in your future practice. So just as an example, as I was going through my training, I, wanted to be a gastrointestinal pathologist, and I wanted to work in an academic setting. And so I kind of skewed my things, my post and my, social media activity towards that realm. So I kind of, made my own, my profile, so to speak, as a whole towards that direction. Another thing you want to think about is, who are you, right? So, on social media, you want to be genuine, be yourself, right? You want to come across as who you really are in person, so that, when we get back to in-person meetings, when you meet someone for the first time, you don't have that, wow, they are not who I thought they were. Kind of like when you hopefully now have seen some of those people for the first time without their mask on. And it's kind of a surprise sometimes, because sometimes that lower half, it doesn't look like what you expected or what your brain had filled in, right? So it's been an interesting time period, right? You want to be professional on there, especially if you are, you've highlighted where you work. If you're using it as a professional account, like myself, Dr. Jang, we all have our accounts as like professional accounts. We say, I'm a doctor, I'm a pathologist, I work here. So you want to always be professional, and you want to show your interest. So just like I talked about, highlighting I wanted to do GI pathology, I wanted to work in academia, so show your interest as like a joke here, like I like birds and colon polyps. And so I highlighted that, I don't know if there's a hashtag ornithology, but I made one right there. So I thought it looked like a little swan. But anyway, so focus on those things so that, people attribute your name or associate your name with those things. And build your team. If you're a trainee, and if you're just at a department, you don't have an account. So just like Dr. Jang was talking about the DoothPack account, when I was a resident, we had the UTMB pathology account that myself and some other residents started and ran. And then just last year, my fellowship, there was an account there. And then here at Northwestern, we have a whole team of folks and a committee working towards kind of really promoting the department and what the department's doing in academia and research and clinical care. So it's really exciting to have that, but really takes a team to really be successful at that. So try to recruit some of your co-residents or some of your fellows, some of your faculty on there, so you can get those different perspectives and you can drive discussions and you can really get everybody chiming in, and you can highlight what the great things are about your department and, and your team there. One thing when I was, as I was going through training, looking at places I would potentially want to work, was, I followed the Northwestern pathology account and I saw all the cool stuff and great things they were doing, the research opportunities, how well they treated the residents and the different opportunities that the trainees had, the great cases they had. So, and that really helped me see what was going on and gave me some insight into that. Just like they could search me and see what I'm doing on social media, is when I applied for the job, I could search them and find out what they're doing from that perspective, So that goes with the departmental account. And then you want to try to engage your institutional account as well. So if you can touch base with those folks, tag your School of Medicine or your institution. I know at UTMB, I spoke with some of the public relations folks there, and we would tag the provost office or the School of Medicine, and they would highlight different things so that we could also promote our, our residents and trainees and our medical students and what was happening there, to just the a broader audience than just folks following the UTMB pathology account. And then think about engaging, other specialties, other specialties in your institution. So, in pathology, maybe we want to do something with radiology or with surgery, or, the cardiology team or whomever, just to try to tie things together and show what we're doing and really build on what's happening, and just create this network of accounts and just in specialties. And, medicine is a team sport, right? We have all these specialties, even just within pathology as a whole, like Dr. Jang doing head and neck and cytopathology. I don't do either of those things at all. So, it's a team sport, even within the subspecialties. So just really tying things together. So as a trainee, I used it a lot for education. I would say step out of your comfort zone. You'll see cases posted a lot, and, asking questions about diagnosis or learning points, things like that. don't hesitate to, give it a shot. Write your answer there. We're all learning, and it's on social media. Sometimes the picture may not be great. It's not going to be a whole slide like you're looking at, in person. And so, but like you can give it a shot, right? It's only a chance for you to learn something, and it's not going to hurt anybody, right? There's no patient impact there. You're just participating in this discussion. But step out of your comfort zone, and don't be afraid to be wrong, or message an expert. I've had a couple questions, and I've just messaged the expert, and they'll write me back, and that was really cool. They have written this chapter in a like famous pathology book, and I wrote them and asked them about something, and they wrote me back. Like, you can do that, and that's one of the great benefits of this. You can develop your own style. What kind of posts do you want to have? Do you want to have only educational posts? Do you want to use lots of photos? Do you want to use lots of hashtags? Just kind of figure out your style, and that'll come as you go along. Post cases, use polls, have fun with it, right? So just do a lot, like Dr. Jang's F&A Friday, like obviously she's having fun with it the way she's doing it, and I think it doesn't take long if you look on Path Twitter to see people are having fun with it. Like Dr. Deshpande, if you look at his, you can tell he's just really having a blast, like on Twitter, posting stuff in his videos and teaching and things. Demonstrate your knowledge. So that kind of goes with stepping out of your comfort zone. Ask questions, comment on a case, or ask, say like, oh, is it this diagnosis because of this, or I see that. So you can demonstrate your knowledge. And that's also, that may lend towards down the road when you're applying for fellowships or some position, or opportunity for invitation to do a lecture or something like that, or jobs ultimately, because you're showing like, you're an engaged person, some stuff, right? So now in the background, you may have looked that up, you may have confirmed it, so because you didn't want to like maybe look bad, but that's okay, because you're still reading, you're still learning. And so it demonstrates your knowledge that you're somebody that can really put things together. You can keep up with the literature. So just like Dr. Jang highlighted, so many of these journals have accounts, and I myself post it for a couple of different journals, but it's a great way to see new papers that just come out. They're just, like in press or hot off the press, so to speak. They're not in their paper edition yet at all. That may be months and months away, or longer, but you can find those papers, and then you can go ahead and, I find any papers that are related to, GI pathology or liver pathology, and then I'll save those, and I kind of like have it, stored in my mind, and I kind of tag it with, it's GI, or it's liver or biliary or whatever. And then if something comes up, I can maybe it'll spark my memory, and I can search that and then go back and find it. Just yesterday, this goes to the next point, impress your attendings. Just yesterday, one of my attendings from residency texted me a picture and asked me about these pink globules that he saw in a gastric biopsy. And so I looked at it, and I said what it looked like, and I thought, and then it was several hours later, I remembered I had seen something like that on Twitter, also in the skin, but also in gastric biopsies. And I remember what they called, because it was a funny name, the thanatosomes. And so I searched it again, and sure enough, it's exactly that. And so I sent him the paper, but that kind of stuff, you can show that you're staying up on the literature, you're learning things, you're reading, you're increasing your pathology knowledge to become a better physician and pathologist as a whole. And then just to highlight on that for the trainees, the resident in-service exam, and of course the board exam. Every year, for those 4 years as I took the RICE exam, there was always questions that I knew purely because I saw somebody's Twitter post on that topic. Always. And the same goes for when I took the boards a few months ago. So, you can really pick up little bits of knowledge that way. It's not like the same as like reading a whole chapter or watching a whole lecture. It's just a little quick blurb, right? You can take that in, and maybe it sticks in your mind better. So it goes with your own learning style. Just some examples of highlighting, how you can interact with other departments or other specialties. So here's Dr. Quintana at Beth Israel. So she's a breast pathologist and cytopathologist, and she's doing a whole series with the breast imaging and radiology folks on breast pathology and their radiology correlates. and it's been really popular and something that's really shown a light on both areas in breast pathology in general. Dr. Lepe, who Dr. Jang talked about and mentioned on some of his great work, he's a social media star, but him's talking about the Cyto Journal Club that he was being a part of. So again, staying up on your literature. Dr. Gangahar here, he's showing a post, a Path Boards post. So trying to learn, this is mycobacterium stuff, which you will learn and inevitably study for boards. So just sharing your knowledge and demonstrating that through a poll. And the same kind of thing for Dr. Shah in here. So she used a poll, showing some nice, really pretty pictures, cytopath images here. And she had a poll in the follow-up one. So you can, it's kind of developing your style. How do you want to approach it? Do you want to use a poll? Do you want to have a lot of images, have no images? So just think about that stuff. And you can always play with it and figure out what you like to do. Here's another couple of examples. So from Dr. Cox out in LA. He has a gross image and he has low power and high power, or middle power, medium. But anyway, what kind of tissue is this? What's your diagnosis? Dr. De Michel in New York. So nice bullet points here with the radiology and histology correlate. A couple high learning, like high yield facts for path boards and stuff about like the fusion right there. Another one from Dr. Lepe. He made this nice little flashcard. I like to save those and have them on my phone in like an album so that I could study them, especially as I prepared for boards. And have probably very unhealthy, not work-life balance. I would like lay in bed and like look through them as I was falling asleep preparing for boards. But luckily I made it by. So, but those were nice things. And you can look through Twitter. There's really great graphics that a lot of people have made. And then another one here's from Dr. Milani in Dallas. So nice one for the PGY1s, different approaches to histology. And then talking about your own style. So this is kind of a couple tweets that I've made. Like you can see on the left there, that was back from like mid 2018. So I had a few images, kind of a collage. I like to do that. And then I just kind of listed like learning points, and I had a paper I highlighted there as a reference. And then you fast forward a few years, and then I used bullet points, and I had several, like 2 collages of images. And then I like tagged the institution where I was at in Liverpath and that. So you kind of figure out how you like to do it. I switched to the bullet points that looked a little cleaner, added a few more images, you just figure it out. Have fun with it though, right? For professional development, the networking, just like Dr. Jang talked about, collaborations, scholarships, awards, different leadership opportunities, research, fellowship, and jobs. And I'll go through some examples. So for like different organizational impact and leadership, scholarship opportunities, there in the top left was something offered through ASCP and USCAP. The bottom left there was an award through the CAP Foundation. You see on the bottom right, the ASCP is 40 under 40, which I know just closed out voting. Hopefully we got some great folks that made it this year. And then on the top right there about interacting with other specialties. This was a scholarship program that I participated in with through the Liver Disease Association. And so, it was the Emerging Liver Scholars Program. So I got to go to this meeting and really engage a lot with hepatologists and gastroenterology and hepatology trainees as a trainee myself in pathology, but really form those relationships. And it's been great. And it's actually led towards now where I'm like, they have a Liver Fellow Network website, and I'm a faculty now for the pathology pearls part on that. So it's continued to grow. Research opportunities. Here was a paper Dr. Zhang was on that I was fortunate to be a part of during the COVID pandemic. So on the top left there. On the top right, leadership opportunity is a social media editor, opportunity to apply for that through the Journal of Clinical Pathology. And then the bottom there, web pathology, anybody helping, like looking for someone interested in helping out with a project. So these kinds of things are all over Twitter, and you just kind of, as you scroll through, you see it, you think about it, and you can always share it with your friends if you're not interested, but maybe it helps them out. I mean, it's really just about growing, right? And improving and some of those nice CV highlights that Dr. Jang mentioned. Meeting up with colleagues. Of course, hopefully we'll get back to this in person. Dr. Williams, I think he's on here now. You can see him on the top left. He's a star himself. And then we've got some other colleagues from different meetings that you can engage with. And of course, people from all over the world at SCAP in these great photos here. So getting to meet people that you would never see in person potentially, but you can get everyone together there. But you see them and you feel like you know them well. So for other educational goals or academic promotion, can it help you in that front? So yeah, it's being used. So this is from Mayo Clinic, and they developed this guideline for, using for academic promotion, but just to highlight, they highlight your academic niche, your audience. And so this whole philosophy about it, and how you want your activity can grow, how you want to categorize this and really document it, with clear goals, your preparation, different methods. So there's a lot of value there as you think about your promotion, which is something now, I've got the job, I've started, I'm an assistant professor. And of course, now the next thing is to become an associate professor, right? So now I'm thinking about that stuff. So can I use the stuff I've done on social media for that? Will, sharing papers and stuff like that, is this going to help you? Of course, you want to publish, and that's going to help towards your promotion, right? So as you do that, though, will your papers get shared? Just like Dr. Jang mentioned, pinning them up on the wall for people to read is fantastic, right? But sharing them on social media, will more people actually see it? Sure, there's impressions, but what about citations? So, because then people have read it, right? They didn't just see it, they didn't download it, they used it in something. And so this was done, this is a study that was done and published in the thoracic, I think it was the Annals of Thoracic Surgery, yeah. So they did 112 representative articles over a year, and they were tweeted by the one-to-one, like a control group was not tweeted and the other was tweeted from the Thoracic Surgery Social Media Network. And as you can, I think, easily see, is it statistically significant? Very much so, if it was tweeted versus not tweeted. So the change in the citations, your altmetric score, and then the altmetric percentile relative to the journal age. So you can see here, obviously very helpful. Here's another, increasing your own, again, for academic promotion, your citations. This paper that I mentioned earlier, that I got to work with Dr. Jang. This is one of my most cited papers, and it was done all digitally. It was through a Google Doc, right? And so it's some of the great things you can do. But it's been one of my great boosts to my H score, which is of course important for academics, right? Again, another thing for academics and in promotion and social media, this is a paper that was published in ModPath, and I got to be interviewed with Dr. Neto there, UAB, for ModPath Chat. That was pretty cool, and it helped boost this paper, which also is increasing citations and stuff like that. So again, you can really use these things as powerful amplifiers to reach your goals. And then just a few quick tips, because I know we're getting close on time. So, take advantage of the tags and mentions, the hashtags, retweets with comment. I was told early on to try to always add content. I'm not great about that a lot. Sometimes I just like to retweet stuff that's a great tweet, right? But take advantage of the different opportunities like that to really promote things and share your own knowledge. Of course, one of the most important thing to do, obviously, if we're sharing anything that could be patient related, is of course privacy, right? And protection of the patient privacy. So double check, triple check, quadruple check, really be certain. So this is a nice paper that was from Dr. Gardner and Dr. Crane. And I use it as just really a standard to go by for patient protection. Just always be careful. And then time, just like Dr. Jang mentioned, you can use scheduling platforms. Don't overthink it. You can get bogged down and really be, just neurotic about the wording, and so, especially when you have a character count that's limited, right? But when are you going to use social media? Waiting in line, when you're on the go, waiting on the elevator, that kind of stuff. make sure your images are really sharp and white balanced, and it's like a good demonstration of the entity you're trying to show. If you want, if you have time, you can add annotations that people always like that. And it's always great for learning. And then, of course, you have an in-house pro right now and your fellow, your forensic or your neuropath fellow, Dr. Williams. So you can always like go to him and get some tips from him. You know, he knows it like fantastic. He's a stellar. So he's right there with you. And then any questions? And it's for myself or Dr. Zhang.
Thank you, Adam. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you have any, feel free to pop them in there and we can answer them real quick. I know we're at the end of the hour. I am going to share our department's playlist on YouTube, where we have the other two of the talks in this series. They're different, but hopefully also engaging for you. And we hope to do more in the future. So this has been fantastic. I was excited to see that photo of Dr. Gardner from I think that was from the SCAP conference a few years ago. I actually was hiding in there trying to meet as many people as possible.
I think it's where we met. I think
probably I was just walking around shamelessly, handing out my digital coordinates to people for on behalf of the Department of Pathology here at UAB. So I'm not seeing any questions. You guys are really thorough, and I think this is a great primer, which I knew it would be. So we really appreciate it. And if anyone wants to reach out after the fact, I think you can definitely do that through their handles. And otherwise, I think we'll probably wrap it up for the day. So
there's a question from Dr.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Rosenblum, who's here in our department, asked, what app or program do you use for images? I think if you mean.
Oh yeah, I mean, I use all kinds of apps and programs. I have an iPhone. I'm an iPhone person, and there's actually a fair bit of editing that you can do right on your iPhone. And for more, I actually have a whole course with Drs. Gardner and Gonzalez about this at CAP. So putting in a shameless plug for that, if you want to hear me and those two experts talk at length about the apps we use to optimize things. But yeah, I do a lot of editing right on the smartphone. There's also an app called Easy Watermark Lite that you can use to watermark things, photo collage apps to make photo collages, kind of like the ones that Dr. Booth was showing. And then I use on my desktop, I use actually things like PowerPoint, Paint 3D to do some of the stuff, add arrows, and then I use an open source software called GIMP, which is basically Adobe for people who like free stuff. Very fully functional, very good for batch image manipulation. And so kind of depending on what I'm doing, I'll either use my phone or my desktop, and those are the ones that I use the most. Dr. Booth?
Yeah, kind of along the same lines. I use my iPhone a lot, especially as a trainee. I was doing it on the go, and I could see my quality of photos from my phone increase and get better as the years went on. So if you start off and you're kind of rough, like just take some practice, but you'll get there. I like an app called Snapseed. It's pretty good for quickly white balancing your photos. And then you can do there's a InLight I use to make little collages and add the watermark and stuff like that. Although now that I have my own nice attending office with the CellSense and the whole bit, and I hope to use the CellSense and PowerPoint and stuff like that on the computer a little more, and hopefully to start sharing some more cases soon.
I think we found in looking back over our analytics that for our department, last year we had a lot of growth because probably out of necessity on social media, people were looking for content, I think, like you mentioned, but that our cases of the week almost always outperform everything else. So, which is good. I mean, staying true to the discipline. And so.
Yeah, I definitely think that people, we went into pathology because we find interesting cases and educational cases interesting. So, that's kind of our bread and butter, especially in anatomic pathology. We all love sharing pearls and pitfalls, and, I like that myself.
Yeah, I think I can unofficially announce that we're looking to expand ours and add some different types of cases really soon. And we're bringing more of our faculty and trainees on board to help us with that. So we're excited. So look out for it.
Yeah, good luck. I will look for those.
Yeah, thanks.
For sure.
Okay, well, with that, I think we will go ahead and wrap it up. But thank you both very much for participating, and thanks to everyone who joined us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for the invitation
Nice
again. It was a
day.
pleasure. All right,
Thank
bye.
you.